Have you ever wondered what lies hidden in the shadowy depths of a cave? Or what drives someone to push beyond the limits of safety in search of the unknown? A group of 6 college friends set out to explore the mysterious passages of Clarksville Cave. But as they ventured deeper, curiosity and excitement turned into tension and fear. One daring adventurer, separated from the group, made a decision that changed everything. Trapped on the other side of an underwater passage, he is left alone in the cold darkness with no clear way back. Before we dive into the video, I'd like to ask for your support by subscribing to our channel. Currently, only 8% of our viewers are subscribed, but your subscription helps us create more content like this. Simply click the subscribe button, like this video, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest uploads. What happened in that isolated chamber? And how did the team's thrilling journey end? Let's uncover the mystery. Clarksville Cave, located in Albany County, New York, is one of the Northeast's best-known wild caves and a popular destination for both beginners and seasoned cavers. Situated about 12 miles west of Albany, near the quaint village of Clarksville, the cave is surrounded by the striking scenery of the Helderberg Mountains. Clarksville Cave offers an incredible horizontal network of passages spanning about 4,800 feet, with 3 main entrances providing different entry points to explore this natural wonder. Managed by the Northeastern Cave Conservancy, the cave is open to the public between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m., providing visitors with well-maintained facilities, including a changing area and an informational kiosk. The geology of Clarksville Cave is rooted in the Onondaga limestone, which dates back around 400 million years to a time when this part of North America was submerged beneath a shallow, tropical sea. This ancient limestone contains fossils of marine life like corals and shellfish, adding a sense of prehistoric intrigue to the cave walls. Over time, glaciers carved and shaped the area, and melting glacial waters further sculpted the cave, carrying sediments and even animal remains inside. In the 1960s, for instance, the bones of an extinct elk were found within the cave, buried in a mud bank. This delicate and fascinating geology makes Clarksville Cave a unique environment where past and present meet. The cave is mostly a large tunnel system, with an active stream flowing through its passages. This stream, fed by Onesquetha Creek, winds through the cave year-round, often filling portions of the pathways. Some parts are walkable, while others require crawling, wading, or even careful maneuvering over loose rocks and slippery mud. The stream's waters stay at a chilly 46 degrees, adding an exhilarating challenge for explorers. In spring, or after heavy rains, Clarksville Cave can flood, so checking the weather before visiting is essential. Once inside, the passages offer a range of features. Visitors will see both open chambers and narrow passageways, some filled with layers of leaves and loose rocks, creating slippery paths and requiring caution. One of the remarkable sights includes so-called canyon passages carved by fast-moving water, towering higher than they are wide. This constant erosion over time has formed some areas with distinctive rock formations, including limestone slabs that have separated and may eventually crash to the floor. Clarksville Cave's layout and historical richness make it a thrilling experience for all types of explorers. The cave has a variety of unique zones, like the Twilight Zone, where natural light from the entrance filters in but never fully illuminates the space. Deeper in the cave, temperatures remain steady at around 48 degrees Fahrenheit, with high humidity levels. In winter, icicles and ice stalagmites sometimes form near the entrance, adding a magical touch to the otherwise dark and mysterious environment. In the past, Clarksville Cave has also served as a canvas for early visitors who left behind names and dates on its walls, although modern cave explorers are encouraged to take nothing but pictures and leave nothing but footprints. This practice ensures that Clarksville Cave remains a preserved natural marvel for generations to come. The variety of walkable sections, tight crawlways, and water-filled corridors make Clarksville Cave an exciting and memorable journey into the depths of New York's underground terrain. On April 7, 1984, an adventurous group from the Tufts University Mountain Club gathered in Clarksville, New York, filled with anticipation. 6 young cavers were about to enter the mysterious depths of Clarksville Cave, a renowned destination for wild caving enthusiasts. Only their leader had previous caving experience, but they were all eager to explore the cave's winding passages, underground streams, and challenging squeezes. They had heard that Clarksville Cave could be a thrilling labyrinth, where tight tunnels and dark chambers tested the bravery and endurance of anyone willing to venture in. For these young cavers, it was an opportunity for an unforgettable experience, pushing the boundaries of their comfort zones in a wild and untamed underground world. As they gathered their gear, the team made sure that they had the essentials, like flashlights, helmets, and protective clothing to protect them from the chilly waters and rocky walls. The group was buzzing with excitement, sharing their hopes and some nervous laughter as they reviewed their plans. For most of them, the unfamiliar world that they were about to enter was equal parts thrilling and daunting. Stories of previous caving adventures filled their imaginations with images of vast underground chambers, fascinating rock formations, and hidden waterways. Yet there were also hints of danger. The occasional story of someone getting lost, trapped, or injured in caves with narrow tunnels and cold running water. They knew that they had to rely on each other, stay together, and heed their leader's guidance. Clarksville Cave, known for its mix of accessible and challenging areas, offered multiple routes, including the upstream Ward section and the more confined Gregory section. At around 11 a.m., the group entered the cave, heading first to the Wards section, which was famous for its tunnels and the small, steady stream that ran through parts of it. The excitement of the team grew as they navigated through the limestone corridors, ducking and crawling, feeling the thrill of being surrounded by ancient rock. They felt the cool, moist air, heard the distant lapping of water, and were awed by the stillness and depth of the earth that surrounded them. After thoroughly exploring the Ward section, the group of 6 cavers made their way back to the Ward's entrance. They were exhilarated by the adventure so far, and while 2 members felt content with what they had seen and decided to exit, the remaining 4 were just getting started. Among them was Simon Yee, who was especially excited to push further. For him and the others, there was still an uncharted mystery waiting ahead in the less explored Gregory section of Clarksville Cave. This area was known for its narrow, challenging passages and was considered a level up from the Ward section. The sense of discovery and the call of the unknown pulled them forward, and the allure of exploring this more difficult path was simply irresistible. The Gregory section offered a unique kind of thrill. Unlike the Ward section, this route was narrower and required them to crouch and squeeze through small spaces. Water trickled along the walls, creating an eerie echo, and the air grew colder and damper with each step. There were areas where the ceiling dipped low, and the group had to carefully maneuver through tight spots with only their flashlights illuminating the rocky walls. They felt both excitement and nervousness as they navigated these confined spaces, knowing that they were moving deeper underground and farther away from the safety of the exit. Around 500 feet into the Gregory section, the group arrived at an area known as Brinley's Sump. It was here that they encountered a true test of their courage and decision-making skills. Brinley's Sump was a water-filled passage with only a narrow gap of airspace for breathing. Most of the year, the sump held about 2 feet of water, allowing brave cavers to crouch down and wade through the space with a foot of air above them. The team could picture themselves creeping through this low passage, keeping their heads close to the ceiling while carefully moving forward through the icy water. However, when they got there, they quickly noticed something was different that day. Recent rains had raised the water level dramatically. Instead of the typical low-air passage, Brinley's Sump was now completely submerged for a length of about 5 to 10 feet. It looked intimidating, as the passage appeared to plunge entirely underwater, leaving no air gap. Standing there, watching the dark water filling the passage, the group felt a mix of thrill and fear. The challenge now was whether to attempt diving through the sump or turn back. They discussed the situation, weighing the risks and considering their options. The cold water and tight submerged passage meant that even a short dive could be risky without the right equipment or a backup plan. As the 4 cavers gathered near the sump in Clarksville Cave's Gregory section, they felt nervous about the decision they had to make. The narrow tunnel ahead, partially filled with murky water, looked dangerous and difficult. The air felt heavy, almost pressing down on them, and the humidity in the cave made it feel colder. Each of their headlamps shone faintly on the water, revealing only a short distance before disappearing into darkness. The unknown of what lay ahead made them feel uneasy. Despite their adventurous spirit, they knew that the sump ahead was a risky choice, especially with the recent rain increasing the water levels. They huddled together, talking about their options, trying to decide between the excitement of finding out what was on the other side and the dangers of diving. They knew that the sump was usually passable during drier times, with just enough airspace to allow them to crouch low and walk through the water. But today, the path was completely underwater, forcing them to dive completely underwater for about 5 to 10 feet in order to reach the next chamber. Most of the group members thought that it was best to turn back, concluding that it was too dangerous without the right diving gear, and also the unpredictable nature of caves. However, 18-year-old Simon Yi, a passionate adventurer driven by curiosity, wasn't ready to give up on the chance to explore what lay beyond the sump. With 2 flashlights in hand and a growing determination to press forward, Yi believed that he could manage the dive on his own. Ignoring the warning glances from his friends, he took a deep breath, steeled himself, and slipped into the cold water. The water was icy, immediately tightening his muscles, and the darkness in the narrow passage swallowed him whole. The dive itself was short but scary. Cold water surrounded him, and even though the underwater passage was short, it felt like time slowed down as he pushed himself forward. His heart pounded, and the light from his flashlight barely cut through the water as he swam through. When he reached the other side, he gasped for air and looked around, finding himself in a small, air-filled room. For a moment, he felt proud and excited. He had made it to the other side, entering a part of the cave his friends hadn't dared to explore. But his excitement was short-lived. As the realization of his isolation set in, a sense of unease started to creep into his mind. The chamber was dim, with uneven, rocky walls that seemed to close in around him. His flashlight cast long, eerie shadows, barely illuminating the small area. He could hear only the drip of water echoing in the chamber, a sound that grew louder in the silent cave. Yi was completely alone, separated by a dark underwater passage from his friends. The longer he sat there, the colder he felt. His clothes were soaked, and despite wringing them out, he couldn't escape the biting chill that seemed to be settling into his bones. It was then that he realized the real challenge. He's going to have to go back through the sump to rejoin his friends. But doubts began to surface. What if he misjudged his direction? What if he couldn't make it back safely? The dive had left him disoriented, and the thought of re-entering the dark, submerged passage made him hesitate. Knowing that his friends would come for him, Yi made the difficult decision to stay put and wait for help. On the other side of the sump, his friends grew increasingly anxious as time passed. They waited for Yi to resurface, but as the minutes ticked by with no sign of him, worry set in. They called out into the darkness, hoping he could hear them, but only silence replied. Their fear for his safety quickly outweighed their own sense of adventure. At 4:30 p.m., they decided that they couldn't wait any longer, and they exited the cave to get help. It was an agonizing decision, but they knew that they were out of options. Yi was beyond their reach, alone in the darkness. Once outside, the cavers contacted local authorities, explaining that Yi was likely stranded on the other side of a flooded passage. The authorities quickly reached out to the Albany Schoharie Cave Rescue Team, a specialized group trained for cave rescues. Knowing the risks that Yi faced, they scrambled to organize a team, understanding that he was not only cut off, but also vulnerable to hypothermia in the cold, damp cave environment. Every minute mattered. The first rescue team arrived at the cave at around 6 p.m., bringing with them both the experience and the specialized equipment needed for such an operation. 6 rescuers made their way to the sump, setting up a plan to reach Yi. The first attempt to dive through the sump was unsuccessful, but the team quickly regrouped and sent a second rescuer through, who successfully crossed the sump and reached Yi. The rescuer reassured Yi, assessing his condition and keeping him calm. Although Yi was cold, he was still rational and in good spirits, but his situation was becoming increasingly precarious due to the chilling conditions. Since the Gregory entrance was also blocked by water, the only way to bring Yi out was back through the sump. However, Yi was apprehensive about diving back in, and his rescuers understood his concerns. Returning through a narrow, water-filled passage in a state of anxiety could be dangerous. Recognizing the need for additional equipment, the rescue team called in divers who arrived with a scuba tank, a face mask, and a stronger diving light. At 9:30 p.m., 2 more rescuers free-dived through the sump, bringing with them hot chocolate to warm Yi up and calm his nerves. With each passing hour, the threat of hypothermia loomed larger, and the urgency of the rescue operation intensified. As Yi sipped his hot chocolate, the rescuers went over the plan with him, ensuring that he was comfortable with the equipment and knew what to expect during the dive. Finally, equipped with a face mask, the scuba tank, and strong guidance from his rescuers, Yi felt ready. With one rescuer holding his arm and another illuminating the way, Yi took a deep breath and started the dive back through the sump. The journey through the submerged passage felt like a lifetime, but Yi remained focused, trusting in the guidance of the rescuers who helped him navigate. Emerging from the other side, he was met with cheers and relief from both his fellow cavers and the rescue team. Finally, at around 11:30 p.m., Simon Yi exited Clarksville Cave, unharmed and undoubtedly forever changed by the harrowing experience. The choices and instincts that guided Simon Yi to take that fateful dive into the unknown are intriguing, and they offer insight into why people explore caves, and sometimes push their limits too far. Humans have an innate curiosity, an impulse to explore that has driven us to climb the highest peaks, sail the vast oceans, and plunge into the depths of the earth. This desire to expand our knowledge and our reach into uncharted places has led to incredible discoveries and advancements. But this same impulse can sometimes push us into dangerous situations where curiosity overrides caution. In Simon's case, the lure of what lay beyond the sump was simply too strong. He admitted later, quote, "I just got an impulse to go through. I just wasn't thinking." That urge to go further, to find out what was on the other side, overcame the rational thoughts of danger and risk. One of the key mistakes made by the group that day was underestimating the conditions inside the cave. The recent rains had raised water levels, transforming the usual near-sump passage into a fully submerged sump. Yet they hadn't fully accounted for how this would affect their path and limit their options. It was a reminder of how important it is to continually assess cave conditions, even when exploring familiar passages. Caves can change rapidly due to environmental factors, and what may have been a straightforward route one day can become impassable or dangerous the next. Experienced cavers know to be vigilant about these changes, and although Simon's group did discuss the risk of diving through the sump, they could have placed more emphasis on the potential dangers given the higher water levels. Another mistake was in communication and decision-making. When the majority of the group voted not to attempt the sump dive, it was clear that they were concerned about the risks. But when Simon felt compelled to dive through, his friends didn't stop him or insist that they all turn back as a team. Allowing him to attempt the passage alone, even though they were nearby, left him vulnerable and isolated on the other side of the sump. In situations like these, sticking together as a group is essential. Had they encouraged Yi to stay with them, he might not have faced this ordeal of being stranded alone in the dark. The rescue also highlighted how important it is for caving groups to be prepared and to understand their own limitations. Without the proper diving equipment, even a seemingly short water-filled passage can become a major obstacle. Simon's dive was short in distance, but perilous, requiring navigational skill and a steady mind in a dark, confined space. In hindsight, having more experienced members on the team or additional equipment might have changed their approach, making them less likely to take the risky dive in the first place. In the end, Simon Yi's story is both a thrilling adventure and a cautionary tale. His instinct to push forward, to explore despite the risks, is a trait shared by many adventurers. But in cave exploration, where the environment is often unforgiving, caution and preparation must take priority over impulse. Simon's experience in Clarksville Cave serves as a powerful reminder to approach every caving expedition with respect, to weigh each decision carefully, and to recognize when it's best to turn back. The thrill of discovery is one of the joys of exploring. but making it back safely to tell the story is ultimately the greatest achievement. Thank you for joining us on this exploration. If you enjoyed this story and you want to hear more incredible caving adventures, make sure to like this video and also subscribe to the channel. Share the video with your friends, and let us know in the comments if you'd ever dare to explore a cave like Clarksville. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep exploring.